Today, we're going to step back in time to talk about one of the most pivotal and profound moments in history, the final days of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. We're going to walk through what happened as he departed from this world and explore the incredible, unshakable legacy he left behind.
Even in his very last moments, with his head resting in the lap of his wife Aisha, the Prophet acknowledged a universal truth. As he dipped his hand into a small bowl of water to wipe his face, he said these words. He reminded us all that death is a very real, very human experience with its own struggles.
These were some of his final words, and they tell you everything you need to know about where his focus was. There was no talk about power or money or worldly things. His entire aspiration was clear. He just wanted to return to his Lord and join what he called the most exalted companionship on high. That's all that mattered.
So when he passed away, the ruler of the entire Arabian Peninsula, mind you, this is how much money he left behind. Zero. A big, round zero. Not a single coin. Anything and everything that ever passed through his hands was immediately given away in charity. He left nothing for his family to inherit.
Think about this. His most significant worldly possession, his armor, wasn't even in his house. It was pawned to a Jewish merchant in exchange for some barley, just so he could feed his family. It's such a powerful picture of a life lived with complete and total detachment from material things. So the moment he passed, it wasn't just a private, quiet loss for his family. As we're about to see, this was an event that completely changed the feeling, the entire atmosphere of a whole city.
This is an eyewitness account from his companion Anas, and wow, does it capture the feeling of that day. He said that when the Prophet arrived in Medina, it was like a light switched on, illuminating everything. And on the day he died, that light was extinguished, plunging the entire community into this metaphorical darkness of grief.
You have to picture the scene. The community was just paralyzed. People were wandering around bewildered. Some were so stunned they couldn't even speak. Others physically couldn't stand up anymore. They just collapsed where they were. And for a lot of them, the news was so impossible to believe, they just went into complete denial.
And the loudest, most powerful voice of that denial came from one of his strongest and closest companions, Umar ibn al-Khattab. His love for the Prophet was so immense that his mind simply couldn't process the news that he was gone. So Omar actually stood up in front of everyone and declared, "He has not died." He said the Prophet had just gone to meet his Lord, like Moses did, and that he would return. He even threatened anyone who dared to say the messenger of Allah had passed away. That just shows you the sheer depth of the heartbreak and shock everyone was feeling.
But into this storm of chaos and confusion, a figure of incredible calm and wisdom stepped forward. The moment needed a steady hand, and that hand belonged to Abu Bakr.
Now look at how Abu Bakr handled this. He was methodical. He didn't just rush out and start shouting. First, he went into the Prophet's room. He saw the truth for himself, and he gently kissed his forehead. Only then, when he was certain and composed, did he walk out to face that distraught crowd. With these words, Abu Bakr delivered one of the most important speeches in Islamic history. Bam! Just like that, he recentered everyone's faith. He reminded them that yes, we love Muhammad, but our worship is for God, and God is eternal. He never dies. It was the anchor they so desperately needed in that moment of chaos.
But Abu Bakr wasn't finished. He knew he needed to follow up his own powerful words with the ultimate source of clarity, the ultimate truth, a verse from the Quran itself. He recited this verse, and many of the companions said later it felt like they were hearing it for the very first time. It was the divine confirmation they needed. It reminded them that the Prophet was a mortal man, a messenger, and that the faith itself was always meant to endure beyond his lifetime.
And the effect was just immediate and so powerful. Omar, the strong one, the one in denial, he later said that as soon as he heard Abu Bakr's recite that verse, his legs just gave out from under him, and he fell to the ground. In that single moment, the shock was broken, and he and the entire community finally accepted the truth.
So, with acceptance came the incredibly heavy task of saying that last farewell. The companions now had to bury the man they loved more than anyone on earth, and they did it with a reverence that is just unparalleled.
The way they handled the burial was so unique. First, he was washed while still in his clothes, as a sign of honor. Then, instead of one prayer, people came in small groups, men, women, and children, to pray over him individually. There was no single leader for the prayer. And finally, after a brief debate about where to bury him,
Abu Bakr remembered the Prophet himself saying that a prophet is always buried in the very spot where he dies.
And the aftermath, it was instant. Anas said that as soon as they had finished the burial, before they had even brushed the dirt from their hands, they could feel a change inside their hearts. It wasn't a loss of faith, not at all. It was just this profound sadness, this heavy sense that the direct line to heaven, the connection to revelation, was now gone forever.
But, the Prophet himself had already given them the ultimate comfort. During his final illness, when his daughter Fatima was crying in sorrow, he pulled her close and told her this. He let her know that for him, the struggles of this world were ending, and he was moving on to a place of perfect eternal peace.
And so it all leaves us with this incredible question, doesn't it? Here's a man who left behind no money, no property, no kingdom, nothing of this world, and yet his spiritual legacy continues to light up the lives of billions. It really makes you stop and think about what a true legacy is, and how a life dedicated completely to God can leave an impact that literally transcends time itself.
Peace and blessings be upon him.